There is something chilling about watching a man fall in love with a child that is his. Especially when you're the reason he believes it is. Jake held her like she was made of glass, delicate, precious. The way his hands trembled that first time he picked her up in the hospital still replays in my mind. He kissed her forehead and whispered, "Daddy's here." While I lay on the bed, my back turned, eyes wide open and dry. I had already cried the day before, when I realized what I was about to do. But I didn't stop. I had reasons. Reasons I stacked like sandbags around my conscience. He left me, humiliated me. After 2 years of promises, of shared dreams and future baby names scribbled on napkins in diners, he chose someone else, Shelby, blonde, polished, corporate, everything I wasn't. And then, as if to salt the wound, he got her pregnant weeks after walking away from me like I was a detour, not a destination. Except fate had a funny way of leveling the playing field. My period was late, then later, then gone, and suddenly I was pregnant too, only he didn't know. When I told him, it was already too late. He was engaged to Shelby, posting nauseating engagement photos under golden autumn trees. He said, "I hope you're lying. I can't deal with this right now." That was the last message he ever sent. I considered everything: abortion, adoption, disappearing. But then I learned that Shelby had suffered a miscarriage. Just 6 weeks along, but enough to rattle their perfect little world. I still don't know how I got the idea. Maybe it was a headline I saw. Maybe it was desperation. But when the hospital offered me the standard postnatal paternity test, just a box on a form, I ticked yes. And when they asked me for Jake's information, I gave it, along with a DNA sample ID secretly collected back when we were still together. A toothbrush, sealed in a Ziploc bag and stored in the back of a drawer like a grudge. It wasn't legal, it wasn't ethical, but it was enough. The result: 99.99% probability of paternity. The hospital mailed the copy to me. I took a photo of the printed result and texted it to him. Me, "Congratulations, you're a dad." He didn't reply that day or the next, but on the third day, he showed up. I still remember how he looked standing at the threshold of my apartment, wine-tossed hair, dark circles under his eyes, and a guilt that clung to him like cologne. "Can I see her?" he asked. I didn't speak. I just stepped aside. He held her for an hour, didn't speak. Just held her, rocked her, whispered things I couldn't hear. "I want to do the right thing," he said finally. "I want to be in her life. Support her, however I can." That was the moment the lie fused with reality. I nodded, told him we'd figure it out, said I appreciated him stepping up. He moved in a week later. Not into my bed, just into the apartment, into her life. Diapers, bottles, midnight rocking sessions. And slowly into a rhythm that looked almost like family. Friends were shocked. "He's back," they whispered. After everything he did, I just smiled. Let them think forgiveness had won. Let them believe I was stronger than I really was. But inside, every moment was a balancing act. Jake was tender with her, protective. He cried once during a late-night feeding when she grasped his finger and wouldn't let go. "I didn't know I could love this much," he whispered. I almost told him then, almost. But then he kissed her forehead and said, "My daughter." And I swallowed the truth like poison. Shelby found out 2 months later. She texted him, called, left voicemails full of heartbreak and rage. He didn't answer. Eventually, she showed up at our door. "This is pathetic," she spat when I opened the door. "You manipulated him. You're pathetic." I didn't flinch. "You're welcome to say that to his face. He's in the nursery, singing to his daughter." Her face cracked at that. Jake never invited her back. He changed jobs, took something closer to home. Started cooking dinners, reading parenting books, even building a crib from scratch. Our place started to look like a home, not a war zone of broken promises. People praised him. "Jake's really grown up," they said. "You're lucky he came back, lucky." They didn't know I had engineered every inch of this reality. Sometimes I looked at my daughter and wondered who her real father was. I never told anyone. I threw the real test away. Burned it in a sink like some guilty offering. She was mine. She didn't need anyone else. Jake gave her love, shelter, safety. Didn't matter if he wasn't her blood. I told myself it didn't, until the day she said her first word, Dada. Jake cried, and I realized just how deep the lie had gone. Not just into Jake's life, but into hers and mine. And I had no idea how to stop it. Jake and I began to exist in this strange, suspended reality, something between domesticity and deception. Our apartment was filled with baby books, diapers, and late-night lullabies, but beneath every soft giggle, every bedtime story lay a quiet ticking my secret, counting down to detonation. He was all in now. He dropped hints about marriage. Once, during dinner, he absent-mindedly said, "When we're officially a family." I froze. He didn't notice. He was too busy spitting mashed carrots into our daughter's smiling mouth. She adored him. She didn't know him as anything but Dada. The way her face lit up when he came home from work, it was no act. He carried her on his shoulders through the grocery store, sang Disney songs off-key in the kitchen, built blanket forts that collapsed in seconds and led to hours of giggling. I had created a father-daughter bond that was heartbreakingly real and dangerously fragile. Sometimes I'd wake up before dawn and sit in the nursery, watching them sleep. She'd curl up on his chest, his arms wrapped around her like a shield. I'd stare at them for long minutes, heart tight with confusion. Guilt had stopped being a visitor. It had moved in, taken up residence beside my toothbrush. One night, while folding laundry, he said, "You know, I used to think I'd never have a family, never be enough." I didn't know how to answer. He looked at me. "You gave me this. You fixed me." "No, I broke you to get here." But I smiled and said, "We fixed each other." The cracks started small. Jake's sister, Riley, came to town. She was sharp journalist sharp. The kind who asked questions with smiles and dissected answers with silence. She loved our daughter instantly, but I caught her looking at her oddly sometimes, brows furrowed. Once, I overheard her ask Jake, "Does she remind you of anyone from your side?" He shrugged. "Maybe Mons knows whom." I felt her eyes on me the rest of the visit. Before leaving, Raleigh hugged me and said, "You built something beautiful. Just be sure it's strong enough to last." What did she know? Or suspect? Then came the blood drive. Jake volunteered at a community center event. I showed up with the baby to surprise him. One of the nurses cooed over her. "She's precious." "How old?" 9 months, I said. The nurse smiled. "Have you considered cord blood registry for your next one? You know, banking stem cells, useful for siblings." Jake's expression shifted. "Wait, you did that, right, at birth?" I blinked. "I know, it wasn't offered, really." Pretty standard these days. Later that night, he asked more questions. Where exactly I delivered, what help I used, why his name wasn't on any birth documents. I stammered through excuses. It was a blur. "I didn't want to bother you. You weren't talking to me then." His trust began to fray. He became quieter, more watchful. He rechecked the framed DNA result I'd left on his desk. He started researching private paternity tests. I found browser history. Can paternity tests be faked? The floor beneath me was cracking. I panicked. I suggested a weekend getaway. A cabin, just us and the baby. Fresh air, board games, cuddles by the fire. He agreed, slowly. We drove out Friday morning. The trees were turning. She slept in the back seat. We listened to old songs. He even laughed once. Saturday night, after she fell asleep, we sat by the fire sipping wine. "You ever lie to me?" he asked suddenly. I choked. "What? Just anything important? Anything I should know?" I stared at the flames. "Why would you ask that?" He shrugged. "Just a feeling." We sat in silence. I touched his hand. If I ever lied, It would be because I was afraid of losing something I love. His jaw clenched. I knew then he was close. Too close. Sunday morning, he drove us home early. Didn't explain. That night, while I bathed the baby, he was in the office. I peeked in. He had a swab kit, a DNA test. I went cold. He saw me and said, "Just want to be sure, for peace of mind." Not that I doubt you, but he did, completely. He mailed it the next day. Now all I could do was wait. 7 days later, the envelope came. I watched from the kitchen as he opened it. He read and read again. Then he sat down, didn't speak, didn't look up. He stayed like that for nearly an hour. Our daughter cried once. He didn't move. I picked her up, held her close, heart pounding. Finally, he looked at me. "Tell me the truth." Now, I opened my mouth. No words came. Because how do you explain to someone that you lied so they'd love a child the way she deserved to be loved? That the lie worked, that the lie became love. Jake didn't yell. That was somehow worse. He sat in silence, the DNA report limp in his hand. Our daughter babbled beside him on the couch, stacking blocks that teetered like my whole life. Every few minutes, he looked at her. Then at me, then back at the test. "Is it true?" He asked again, voice barely above a whisper. I nodded. There was no performance left in me. He stared at the wall like trying to calculate how far the lie reached. From the beginning, yes, he rubbed his face. The hospital ... the paperwork. All of it. I nodded again. He laughed, bitter and broken. "Jesus," I said across from him, holding our daughter in my arms now. She reached toward him, not understanding the chasm that had opened. He didn't take her. "What's her name?" he asked suddenly. I blinked. What? Her real name? Her last name? "What's on her birth certificate?" "I gave her your last name," I whispered. That broke him. He got up, walked into the bedroom. The sound of drawers opening, the soft thud of his bag hitting the bed. I followed him. "Please don't leave. I don't even know who you are." "But she does. She knows you." He stopped, turned slowly. That's the part I can't stop thinking about. "I love her," my breath caught. "You made me love her under a lie." But it's real. It's still real. And I don't know what to do with that. He didn't sleep at our place that night. I sat on the floor of the nursery, rocking her in my arms, whispering that it would be okay even though I wasn't sure it would. She didn't understand, of course, but she curled into me, warm and soft, trusting. That trust wrecked me more than Jake's absence. In the following days, he called once, said he needed space, said he was at his brother's, said he wouldn't cut her off but needed to figure out what kind of man he was if he stayed. Riley texted, "You should have told him." I didn't answer. Online forums told stories of paternity fraud and court cases. I couldn't read more than a few lines. I was afraid of seeing myself in the villain, and maybe I was the villain. But I also loved her fiercely. Jake showed up again a week later. He looked thinner, tired. She saw him and squealed, "Dado." He flinched, but knelt and hugged her. I stayed silent. He said, "I talked to a therapist. I talked to my pastor. I talked to a lawyer. I waited for the hammer to fall. I'm not pressing charges." Tears slipped down my face. Relief, shame. "But I want a custody agreement," he added. "I want visitation rights, weekend holidays. I want to be her dad even if it's not by blood." I nodded. He looked at me, "But I will never trust you again. Fair?" He kissed her forehead, picked her up, and whispered, "I'll see you Friday, okay?" She clapped. He didn't look back at me. A month later, our custody arrangement was finalized. Jake had her every other weekend. Tuesdays for dinner, alternating holidays. Neighbors asked why he didn't live with us anymore. I said it was complicated, and it was. I watched them at the park once. From a distance, she ran into his arms, and he swung her high into the air, both of them laughing. The sound of it hit me like a brick joy born from a lie that had mutated into something real. Was it still wrong if the love was genuine? That night, I wrote a letter to my daughter. A letter I'd give her when she was old enough to explain, to apologize, to tell her how one desperate decision gave her the father she deserved even if he wasn't the one nature chose. I signed it, "I'm sorry, I loved you too much to let you have less." Jake's lawyer called me 3 weeks after the custody agreement was finalized. "He wants to include medical decision-making rights," she said, her voice neutral. I hesitated. He's not biologically related. He knows. He also knows he's raised her since birth. He doesn't want to be a weekend dad. He wants to be her dad legally. The words punched something inside me. When the documents came, I stared at them for hours. He wanted joint guardianship, no name change, no extra control, just presence. Just permanence. I couldn't say no. I signed. Jake picked her up that Friday. He didn't say much, but when she ran into his arms with that same giggle, I saw the flicker of something in him that hadn't died, not entirely. The therapist sessions he started began to include me. Court-ordered co-parenting therapy, they called it, but it became more than that. "You're not here to repair the relationship," the counselor said in the first meeting. "You're here to repair the child's world." We nodded. But Jake's eyes were on me, watching, weighing. Over weeks, trust didn't rebuild, but a new language emerged. We talked about routines, tantrums, preschool wait lists. We shared baby pictures and sessions. We left once both surprised at the same memory. But when the therapist asked Jake, "Do you forgive her?" He was silent. He said finally, "I forgive her for lying to me, but not for stealing my choice." The Lee had built a bond, and now that bond was being tested in front of lawyers, doctors, and strangers. But strangely, the longer it lasted, the more real it felt. Our daughter didn't care about DNA. She cared that he made her pancakes in the shape of animals. That he knew her favorite stuffed bunny's name. That he remembered her bedtime song. One afternoon, Jake took her to a father-daughter event at a local community center. He texted me a photo, the two of them in matching paper crowns. Her smile was blinding, his ... hesitant. "She called me her hero today," he messaged. I replied, "You are." He didn't respond. A month later, Jake invited me to her preschool recital. We sat side by side. He brought flowers. She saw both of us and waved so hard her whole body wobbled. "She's got your stubbornness," I whispered. "She's got your fire," he said. During intermission, a mom asked if we were married. I started to shake my head, but Jake answered first, "No, but we're both her parents." Something in his tone made me look at him longer than I meant to. The next custody meeting was quiet. We updated pickup times. Jake mentioned considering therapy for her when she turned 5, just in case she starts asking hard questions. "I'll pay for it," I offered quickly. He nodded. "We'll split it," like everything else. For the first time, it didn't sound like a sentence. It sounded like a partnership. Then came the emergency. She had a severe allergic reaction peanuts in a cookie at a friend's birthday. Jake was the one with her. He called me, breathless, already in the air. When I arrived, he was pacing outside the room. "She's stable," he said. His hands shook. I grabbed them. "You did everything right." He didn't let go. "I thought I'd lose her." "You won't." He looked at me, eyes full of something unspoken. "I love her. Not like a stepdad, not like a friend. Like a father. You are her father," I said, and meant it more than I ever had. "Then I need to know something," he said slowly. "Who is the real father? Does he even know she exists?" I froze. "No," I whispered. "He doesn't. He never will." Jake took a long breath. "Good, because I'm not sharing her." Weeks passed. We found new rhythms, not lovers, not enemies. Something else, something real. And then, one night, while she slept in her room, Jake and I sat on the couch, quiet, watching old videos on his phone. "I used to think this was all fake," he said. that it couldn't mean anything because it started with a lie. He turned to me, but she's real. I'm real. And maybe love doesn't care how it starts, only how you finish. I couldn't speak. He reached out, not for me, but for my hand. We held it between us. She was 5 when she first asked the question. Mommy, was I in Daddy's tummy too? I froze mid-step, holding a cup of warm milk. Jake looked up from the coloring book they were working on, his eyes locking with mine. We had rehearsed this moment a dozen times in therapy, but nothing prepares you for the real thing. No, sweetie, I said carefully. You were in my tummy. She looked confused. But Daddy has the same eyes as me. Jake smiled. Maybe not exactly the same. But I think we match in other ways. She seemed satisfied for the moment, but I knew more questions would come. That night, Jake sat on the porch while I put her to bed. When I joined him, he was staring up at the stars, his face heavy with thought. It's coming, he said, the real questions. The big ones, I know. What do we tell her? I swallowed the truth in pieces. When she's ready, he nodded slowly. I don't want to lose her. You won't. You're her dad. He looked at me. Not legally, not yet, my breath caught. I want to adopt her, he said. I want to give her my name, not because of blood. Because of choice. Tears welled in my eyes. The process took months: background checks, home visits, court dates. The judge asked hard questions. So did the social worker. I told them everything. I didn't hide the lie. I explained the full story, every painful, shameful detail. Jake spoke at the final hearing. His voice didn't waver. I didn't choose to be her father at first, but I choose it now. Every day, I love her more than I thought I was capable of. And if I could go back and undo the lie, I still wouldn't give her up. Not for anything. The judge stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. Adoption granted. We cried. All 3 of us. We had a celebration that night: pizza and balloons and a cake she picked out herself. She wore a crown and declared herself a princess. Jake picked her up, spun her around, and said, Princess of what? She grinned, Princess of our family. Jake looked at me. And in that moment, it felt like everything broken had reshaped itself into something new. Years later, when she was 10, she found the letter I wrote. I hadn't meant for her to read it yet. But she did. She came to me, holding it, her face unreadable. Is it true? Yes, you lied to Daddy. Yes. She was quiet. Then she said, but he stayed, even after. Yes, then he really is my dad. Yes, baby. He is. She nodded and hugged me. I love you, Mommy, but I think I love him a little more. I laughed through tears. That's okay. He earned it. Jake tucked her in that night. As he kissed her forehead, she whispered, Thanks for choosing me. He whispered back, Thanks for choosing me too.